So before we go into why period plastic is a problem, obviously we can't really talk about that without plastic in general. So I think this graph shows really well how at every step of plastic's life cycle, there's carbon dioxide and plastic and pollution enters the environment. So you see during manufacturing, during the use, during recycling even, and it also really well shows how only like very little, I think it's 9% or something like that gets recycled and enters the circle again. And we know that that's not even really recycling, it's more like downcycling. You always need new fossil fuel to recycle, downcycle any plastic that goes back into the system. And if you go to the next slide, there is a great graph that shows how much the use of plastic and use of fossil fuels has been increasing. However, we are using less and less of fossil fuels, but you know, the big oil wants to sell us their oil, so the plan B is plastic, make more and more plastic, even what people don't actually need. It really shows how production from petroleum was 20 times higher in 2014 than in 1964. And that doesn't even include any bioplastic or recycled plastic. And by 2050, 20% of global oil production will be to make plastics, not even to fuel cars and buses, generating 15% of global carbon dioxide emission. If we are to halt climate change, these fossil fuels just need to stay in the ground. On the next slide, you see that, you know, just showing that really at every step of the production that there are problems, even just by fracking and removing these oils and fuels from the ground that can cause oil spills, as we know, and we are nowhere near plastic even. On the next slide, there is a video. Oh, sorry, this for the, what? Okay. So during the manufacturing, there are the nurdles, as you saw for a second, that I'm not sure where you live, but where we live, these nurdles just litter the beach. And then after that, this video will show a woman, if you can start the video. So this woman just lives near a site where there's fracking. And she found that methane gas enters her water that goes into her house that she uses, yeah, for bathing, for cooking, for drinking, and you will see what happens. I don't hear the sound, but then I will just tell you, it's okay, that just with the normal match, she just lights it, and you might know what methane is famous of, that it's flammable. So yeah, that's just the water coming out of her tap, and I found many videos showing this, not just with running water in households. That's good, thank you. I just wanted to show this, but also it enters natural waters as well. So we are just waiting to go to the next slide. So I just think it's really important when, you know, when we look at a product, we don't just think of the product itself, but the whole life cycle. Yeah. And also, yeah, I was talking about how manufacturing, first these nurdles are made that also end up in the environment before they are even turned into usable items. and they can look like food for lots of animals, and they're just everywhere, and they turn into microplastics as well. That I will talk about microplastics in a bit. And on the next slide, there's the little funny comic about the use of plastic and how from using it, lots of people litter, as I'm sure we all know, but also from landfills. It just ends up in the environment from lots of non-regulated landfills, and it stays there forever. Yeah, this little cup has been there for 400 years. And we know they never biodegrade, they just turn into microplastic. The next slide, there's just some information about how 8 billion tons of plastic is around for 200 million, it's around the same as 200 million aeroplanes, the weight. And that's expected to quadruple by 2050. And the microplastic is that then they turn into all plastics is so light that wind and water can carry it really far from where it was disposed. And because of that, it's been found in high mountains, in deep sea sediments, even ice samples from the Antarctica, in food even. It's estimated that an average person eats around 50,000 plastic particles a year. It's been found in drinking water, in the tap water, as well as bottled water. It's higher in bottled water, but it's even been found in tap water. In the air, even in human blood. Imagine that blood goes to your brain. It can be good for your brain to have microplastics. It's even been found in placenta and breast milk. And currently there are around 200 million tons in our oceans. It's really hard to judge, of course, and to even count, because all the teeny tiny bits really add up. And the 50 trillion microplastics is estimated to be in the oceans, which is 500 times more than stars in our galaxy. It's insane. On the next slide, I start talking about why period plastic is a problem. So in just one sanitary pad, it was also in a quiz, it contains around 90% plastic, which is the same amount of plastic as 5 plastic bags. You know, we learned how bad plastic bags are for the environment, but just one pad has the equivalent of 5 plastic bags. And that half of UK females who flush, that's around 2 billion every year. And that includes 1.3 billion plastic applicators. This makes it the 5th most common item found on beaches in Europe, which makes it even more common than the plastic coffee cups, straws, and a plastic cutlery, which have been talked about now for a while of how bad those are for the environment. But somehow period plastic is more of a taboo to talk about. On average, 5 plastic period products are found on every 100 meters of UK's beaches. And this all takes hundreds of years to break down, as we know, or just turning into microplastic. And it's just an interesting fact that if Jane Austen has used period products, they would still be around today. Just imagine how long that people now use will be around and what amount. And also something that is many times not considered is how all the additives and plastic in especially tampons disrupt people's hormonal systems. They can cause real damage to us, not even just the environment.